Welcome to the Live by Heart Today Show 77. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation.
Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
And wearehistorically.com, conscious human apparel. It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today.
Hello, I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, medical intuitive and coherence coach. This show is in our growth series, and today's theme is Why Fly? With me for today's Heart to Heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, professional transformation facilitator. Welcome, Wendy.
Hey, Dawn. This is a great topic. I'm so glad we're focusing on vision and vision quest. And I just keep hearing in my head, like, without a vision, the people perish. No, it just draws us forward. And last week, we're so blessed to have Rusty be sharing about his life of living into his purpose and his passion. It's amazing share. So if you guys didn't hear it, I hope you go back and participate. But today our focus is why fly? Why say yes to life? Why step into our own passion and purpose?
I'm compelled to talk about baby birds in nests, of course, which is part of where the title comes from. And when I was growing up, my parents lived at a farm where there was a barn and barn swallows growing up and leaving the nest. And I was able to see the kinds of things that they did. You know, the nest was created a certain size and a certain shape, and that held the eggs and then the very young birds. And then they got too big for them all to fit in the nest. So they couldn't stay there forever. And when you think about why birds fly, there are many reasons. And the title of our show is about what it takes to fly. So one thing in particular to note that I don't know if many people think about it, but it's that baby birds have never flown before. And so there is a leap of faith. There is trust. They have to trust that their wings are going to work. And a part of the trust is taking the action to open their wings. Because if they don't open their wings, they're not going to fly.
Yeah. And them, like us stepping into who we really are, us coming out of the set point that we might have grew up in, or the momentum that our life just kind of took when we're young, or even when we're old. Like, just things happen. Oh, this happened, that happened. Next thing you know, here I am living here, doing this. It's possible to step out of that, step off that escalator, step off that people mover at the airport. What's that called? This thing that just takes you along.
Walking. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah. That walking, helping thing. It's possible to just not end up at the end of the terminal. It's possible to turn and go all the way another way. And this focus that we're doing today is like, why do that? And start to how do that. And it's funny because we were talking before the show about those birds that you're talking about, those babies, and how they try to, first they have to fly, then they have to land.
Yeah.
And what they look like when they're landing.
And why fly brings along the content about what pushes them out of the nest. So the nest doesn't hold them anymore. It's not big enough for all of them to stand on the edge. And barn swallows have really long tails. So the nest isn't necessarily deep. So they're gripping the edge of that nest of course, and waiting for their mother to come back and feed them.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of things that push them out of the nest, including hungry bellies, because feeding adult birds as the size of adults, I don't think is possible for parents to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, not only have these birds not flown, but I mean, I guess they see the parents coming and going,
Mm-hmm.
but like there's just a ginormous amount of trust
Mm-hmm.
going to leave that nest about not even just flying, but food,
Yes.
figuring out all these things. I mean, I don't know how, their mental process isn't, as extensive as ours, but if we think about our lives in, can I get my needs met? And am I willing to step out into the seeming void and find the wings beneath? Am I willing? And I think that Rusty's share really showed this. It was what my biggest takeaway, I think, is how much he talked about trust.
Mm-hmm.
And it's trusting himself, trusting his own information from within, the self-certainty,
Mm-hmm.
He talked about trusting the divine. He said things like, I knew I would be taken care of. He said things like, I knew if I didn't leave that I never would. Like there's a lot of like he knew what way would work and what wouldn't work, even though the way that would work, he had no idea how it would turn out. And that's just setting ourselves free into trust.
Yeah, and we don't know how it's going to work out. We don't know where we're going to get our food from. And another point he made, which is beautiful when you think about baby birds, and that is they open their wings to fly. And Russ said he also had to let go, which means the baby birds have to stop gripping the edge of the nest with their feet. They have to let go and just do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so if I won't let go, and if I won't open my wings to fly, what happens? Like I just keep the inertia that I have. I keep the set point that I have. I keep the I call it momentum that I have. There's habituation. There's putting up with just how it is because I'm not changing, tolerating, which is not patience, by the way.
Yeah.
And I like that keeps going. And am I willing to let that keep going? Or am I willing to say yes to life?
And when you say yes to life, it's important to understand that that needs get met in different ways. So if we're going to talk about birds, the nest that the bird is standing on doesn't last forever. It begins to crumble. The parents don't come back to the nest. Yeah. Once most of them are gone, they're out teaching them and being an example. So the parents don't go back to the nest, which means the support systems fall away. Yeah. And then they really get hungry. So things change, and things change sort of in a natural way. The old ways crumble, they fall apart, they don't continue to work in the same way when we were younger, when we were baby birds. And it seems to me it's by design.
Yeah. And this topic, you talking about baby birds, is very helpful. Like I'm always coming back to teleos, the Greek word that means coming, our step-by-step process of coming to our wholeness, completeness, maturity. That is our blessing to participate in this world, I believe. And that's the direction of yes to life, I believe. That's the direction of when doors open, going through them. That's the direction of when I get a vision to actually step into doing it. And the opposite is more of it's not life, it's death. It's more the hopelessness.
Mhm.
And in a couple shows ago, we were talking about the song Jack and Diane. And how, like, it's just for like when I listen to it, all I hear is life goes on long after the thrill of living is gone. It's hopelessness. And that's a normal flow in our society, is this like living death instead of saying yes to life.
Mm.
Just step by step, just doing what was done yesterday. It's very, very upsetting. And that's why fly.
Yeah.
Because the nest is falling away. The nest is broken. Babies aren't getting fed. Something's got to give.
Mm-hmm. Something has to change.
Has to.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And some of our emotions are indicators. Some of the energies that we live in, some of the exigencies of life isn't working. The emotions are sucky. The fruit is bad. Can we pay attention to this? And say, okay, something's got to change.
So this song that you mentioned, life goes on, and you pointing out to the hopelessness of how the song goes, and in talking about how we're wired, how our nervous system works, and the patterns and the structures that we have. I tend to be a more optimistic person. So when I hear that song, I have a completely different take on it. And it's hopeful. I'm singing life goes on, right? Life still goes on. I stubbed my toe, I lost my wallet. Life goes on. And I have more hope because it's just going to keep going. And
that's
so
great.
And it takes a little practice. When the baby birds first leave the nest, they haven't developed the musculature to fly long distances.
Yes.
So they fly short distances and they practice landing. And sometimes they try to land on something and they go over, and they try again, and their little wing muscles are tired.
Yeah.
And the learning curve is really steep at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's true, I believe, of all change. The learning curve can be really, really strong. It can be arduous. It can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then it becomes easy. And then it changes. And I've mentioned a book by Jeff Olson called A Slight Edge. And it's important to understand that the things we're talking about are easy to do, and they're easy not to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy for the baby bird to jump out of the nest and, fly to the ground. But it's not easy to get off the ground and into the air again. So they tend to fly onto higher things, right? They tend to fly into the trees where the beginning start is just a descent, and then the wind can take them.
Yes.
But baby birds tend not to fly to the ground at the beginning because it's dangerous there. They might not be able to get the wind to fly again.
Yes.
So,
and there's cats.
Yes, cats and fox and little children trying to catch them.
Yes. And you said a funny thing, we're trying to land on the fence.
Yeah.
And they're just like,
trying to figure out, my wings are open and I got that. But then at what point do they close their wings? Do they turn them this way to stop? Do they turn them down to stop? And they get on the fence, and it's a lot like watching toddlers trying to walk, right? There's whoa, 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 a lot of this, trying to navigate their situation.
Yes. And it's the same for us, like stepping out of the usual routines, trying new things. It's going to be challenging. It might be a little challenging, might be a lot challenging. We might fall, we might not. There might be cats. It's hard. It's not an easy thing to step off the trail, even when it starts to get uncomfortable and the fruit starts to get bad and we're starting to get a lot of emotions that aren't so comfortable, a lot of feelings that aren't so comfortable. But like, it is a challenge to jump off the usual track and say, enough of this. Say, I want something else.
And what pulls you through? It's the vision. It's the baby bird flying again. It's the baby bird opening their wings.
Yes. And it's passion and it's purpose. Sometimes it's hunger.
Yes.
Part of what we were talking about before this was, I have found that people do better working with me in groups or privately. People do better working with me. They are willing to, and then do better if there's some kind of exigency, some kind of carrot or stick, either like it's very strong vision, or I must make this business go because I have to feed my children.
Urgency.
Really urgent. Or like, I'm just so sick, I'm dying, slow death, like I was doing, that had me change. I've got to do something different. Or like Rusty was talking about, like, I've hit bottom around my addiction. I have to do something different. Like these kinds of situations aren't what's optimal, but a lot, it's when I see myself and others really make change, really try something different.
Yeah, the diamond doesn't get formed without pressure.
Yeah, and I call it, and nobody likes it, maybe even you, I think maybe you, about popping the pimple. That,
oh God. Yeah,
I know you hate that illustration, but it's true. The pop,
pressure.
You got to get through. What's it going to take? Pressure. So that's one of the things I've learned better over the decades is, can I respond to that pressure? Can I respond to the suffering before it gets so ridiculous?
And it's letting go. Because if you hold on, it just keeps festering and festering.
Because the first bird to leave the nest is much better off. It's much better fed. It's much better cared for. It's the first bird to leave the nest is much better off than the last one. Last one's much hungrier, has much less help. I guess.
And it can catch up.
It can catch up.
Even if it's hungry, or even if it hasn't had as much practice as all the other ones, it can catch up.
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah. So for me, an example is, like I already said, like I just was ill for years, and I was I was housebound and bedbound a lot. I was in, terrible chronic fatigue and pain. And I knew I needed to make a turn and, go do the training I needed to do what I do. But it didn't seem like the way. It was like, this is not who I am. This is not who I think God is. This is not who I think God has me to do, that kind of stuff. I mean, really important stuff. But like, it was so intense. I just saw myself going 100 miles an hour toward a brick wall. It was over soon if I didn't change. Like, that was the picture. It's just like, I have to change. And so I did it, and my life started transforming almost immediately.
Wow.
I mean, I started training, what I do now. I started training, and within a few months, I could do you have a part-time job?
Wow.
I could, within like very short amount of time, I dropped a lot of weight because I was able to move and get healthier and, etc. So anyway, that's just one example of like, I saying yes to life and what it takes. It was saying no to what I thought was life, but it wasn't. And then another thing came to mind, and I'd love to hear from you then. Another thing came to mind when Rusty last week was talking. His story reminded me of when I left. I'd been assistant director at Psychic Awakenings for like 4.5 years, and it wasn't optimal in the last year. And I knew change was coming. I knew what I was learning in the final days. I knew what I was learning and why I was there. And then all of a sudden there was this weekend, it was equinox weekend, and I was so busy, but I was absolutely compelled to go to the mountains and go snowshoeing for an overnight by myself. And I did that. And I was like, it was very bizarre. I thought that I would be having like a nice time and reading a book and doing my journaling. And I was just like, I did my snowshoeing. I went to the place and I just was like staring at the wall. And then I slept. And then it was weird. It was weird. It was I was processing, but I didn't know what.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day, actual equinox, I wake up, I do my thing, I go snowshoeing. It's time to go back. I stop for some food, and I got this incredible vision. It was like really came upon me of it's time to leave psychic awakenings, and then nothing, black. Then it's time to leave, and then blackness. And I'm just like, okay, like when, where, how, what?
Yeah.
This is very nice, so I'm just like, well, I need a plan. I got no plan. So, all right. So I'll leave like in a few months when these series are over of classes I'm teaching, and, I'll come to natural conclusions, and then I'll start up my own thing. And that's not at all what happened. What happened is that was a Sunday. On Tuesday, I did our core course, and things went awry, but that's normal for the core course. Some things went awry. The next morning, the director called me, and it was drama, and it was over. Like it took a couple weeks to actually like play that out, but I knew like it was just over. And I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to do the rest of this stuff, but it's over. But I thought that even after I left, I thought that I'd have these other classes just start up. I thought, I'd continue the same life under a different roof. And that's not at all what happened.
Yeah.
And that was 5.5 years ago.
Wow,
And
really?
Yes. And I'm just starting to regularly teach again. Since then, I've mostly been working with people one-on-one because I had some deep stuff to do of my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to say that, like, his story reminded me of that, and that it's just like, this is over, this is clear, this door is closed, and it was really closed. Isn't that fascinating?
Wow, beautiful story. Yeah. And after that amazing story, we'll come back and talk about what the after has looked like for you. And we'll be back in just a few short minutes.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hello, I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, a posture specialist and coherence coach. We hold responsibilities on our shoulders, and when our responsibilities become too great, we begin to bend over with the load. And that load actually begins to curve our back, and in this portion of our back is our sense of commitments. So maintain alignment with who you are and the responsibilities that you actually should embrace. Contact me today to align your body, align your mind, and align your beliefs.
Level up your life and raise your vibration with specialized Fibonacci tuning forks. Get your vibrational sound tools for your personal enhancement at energybodytuners.com.
Hello, my name is Wendy from Graceful Soul Academy, and we have an ongoing series of Thursday night workshops. This month, we're focusing on soul certainty. It's not intellectual certainty, it's not theoretical certainty, it's deep knowing, deep seeing in your own soul. We can help you taste the truth of your own soul. We can help you savor your unique perspective. We can help you own your reality, how it occurs for you, both within you and in your world. We're honoring our own experience, and we're honoring the experience of others. So please come join us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I instruct an online video course that teaches anyone how to play jazz piano like a pro with my proven step-by-step system that makes it simple to learn. Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com and download my free quick start guide.
Welcome back to the Live by Heart Today show. I'm excited that this is show 77, and we're talking about why we fly and what happens. And I'd like to just encourage everyone about moving into the situations that are unknown, that are uncertain. And in particular, when we feel like we've been pushed out of a nest, when we're propelled forward and we don't think that it's us that did it, or we may not be ready. And Wendy, your story was really amazing, because you went snowshoeing, you realized change was coming, but you didn't realize it was coming in a couple of days.
So fast.
Yeah. So talk about how you managed it. You had a little foresight, but you certainly didn't have time to prepare for it. And what came out of that?
Well, I was so grateful through that process. I was so grateful to have had that information, that there was a higher cause. There was a higher picture there. And I had known the transition was coming in the general picture, but it really helped me to have that. It was like a vision. It was like it was just so clear. And so it wasn't just random. It was clear that this was my path to do this. And it did help me to make the shifts. It was hard, though, because I'd invested so much in all the students, all those people, all that process, that business. I had invested enormously in the community, and there was a lot of loss, and it was way worse than it might have been. I don't know. Maybe it needed to be. But there was a lot of betrayal around the process, and scapegoating of me. And so I had a lot of social capital. I had a lot of investment in people that was lost in that process. So that was really hard, and very hard. But I'll tell you, I'm not perfect. I was angry, and I was frustrated, and I was annoyed, and I wanted to fight, and I wanted to say my side. I wanted to say my point of view, right? I wanted to be justified, and also be seen to not be letting people down, people who had counted on me, because I was gone. And honestly, Jesus, specifically Jesus, every time I was just I have to, and he would be right in my face, not no, but there's a cliff, don't go over the cliff. That was the feeling. It was just you go that way, there's a cliff, you will fall. And he had to do that many times along the process. He's just he didn't tell no, but he's just cliff. All right. I'll take the effing high road, So, and, honestly, the thing is, to be a spiritual teacher in a certain structure is very wonderful, and it's very hard to change. It's very I needed to show up a certain way and be a certain way and do a certain thing and be very accountable. And also there's the identity of it.
Yes.
Which I didn't think I was that bought into, but it still took time to go through the layers of that and just be let all that go. And that was a necessary part for me in my spiritual journey. I went even further down in the dark night of the soul, down and down and out for another 2 years from
Wow.
there. Almost exactly before I hit the bottom, where I really, really let go in the dark night of the soul that I was in, and started to be able to come back up. And I believe I couldn't have done that in that structure.
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
I had to deconstruct. I was deconstructing. I was rotting. I had to allow myself to let it all go. And that took time, because I take time with these things. It doesn't, Rusty's like, oh, last week. He's like, let go this, let go this, let go. I was just like, I was slower. But I am, and it's okay. And so I had to let go of all that and fail at a lot of stuff to get that and the coming back process. Again, I'm slow. It took forever.
I wouldn't necessarily say you're slow. I would say you're thorough.
I am.
You're thorough. And I was on the outside, sort of watching things happen. And now that you mention the difficulty of it, I wish I had understood more so that I could have been perhaps more supportive. And when I heard the news, the class isn't conducted and she's gone, it was easy for me to pivot. Okay, where are we going? In my mind, it was, where are we going?
So
and it was easy for me to shift. And, we did some classes out of your home. And for me, it looked seamless.
Yeah, I did. I did some stuff after, but it was small.
Yes.
And by the end of that year, so that was Easter, the end of that year, Easter and equinox were close together that year. And then by the end of that year, I was done with I'd had three classes going on, and then that all just ended. I went to private, and I did a few retreats in there and a couple workshops, but really, relative to chung, it was a whole different thing to go, to let it all go. And really nothing really flew very well after that. So, and it's been 2 months that I've been doing the weekly workshops, which are delightful.
Yeah.
And starting the end of last year, I started 2 groups again. So it's like I'm coming back.
Yeah.
And it's very different, and I'm very different, and it's very weird. But yeah. So anyway, there was a huge method to the madness, and I had no idea what that was. It was just a whole lot of nothing, and a whole lot of failing and breaking and falling and stuff not working, for no good reason.
Well, I think there was a good reason.
Yeah, but no conscious good reason.
Well, yeah, certainly no conscious, because there are people who have it hard. And so what that is.
Oh, I know what that is.
Yeah, what that is. And you can be very supportive in that. Our producer, the second time around, when he said the house he was living in was changing hands, his response was, great, sell it. And somebody who's more attached to their house wouldn't understand someone's advice. Great, sell it.
Yes.
They would need someone more understanding.
Yes. And
you provide amazing understanding and support.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So it doesn't always have to look like that, by the way. I mean, it looks a million different ways. And I believe we go through these kinds of shifts very regularly in our lives if we're willing to say, okay, what's the next step? Just like kids go from elementary school to junior high to high school to college to master's to whatever they do, this job, that job, these kids, it's an insight, and this is life. But can we play the new game? Can we play the new game? Can we play the new game? Because if I won't, then I'm stuck in kindergarten over and over. How boring is that?
Yeah, and you wouldn't fit in the chairs anymore. Yeah, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, it Homework.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone who's been with us today. We're so glad you were here for show 77. And if you're watching, even if you're catching the replay, please let us know. We want to hear from you. Tell us what's on your heart by leaving a comment below. For more information about how you can live by heart and why it's so important to fly, please go to livebyhearttoday.com. Like and follow this page and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our shows. We're here every Thursday at 4:44 Pacific time. From our heart to yours, we're creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by heart today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Shop online at wearehistorically.com. Conscious Human Apparel.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilridge. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Thank you for joining us. Have a happy always. Visit our website to view more episodes.